Hello there and welcome to the Really Useful Podcast. My name is Christian Cawley and with me is Gavin Philips, and we are here to give you the basics, the essential information about the technology that matters to you without all the complicated stuff. I'm very happy to say that we are now part of makeuseof.com. We work on the makeuseof.com website anyway, myself, Gavin and Ben and Ian and all the other really useful podcast hosts. We've got some new ones coming along which you'll meet in due course, hopefully. So it makes sense to bring the Really Useful podcast into the Make Use Of family. So big thanks to the honchos at Make Use Of for making that happen. We've been away for a few weeks, Christmas break, that sort of thing, come to terms with the new year. Hopefully you have as well. Gavin, how's your new year going?
I had a fantastic new year. I bought a house just before Christmas, so it's all been go, and then of course straight into the Christmas and New Year period. So yeah, it's very frantic. And how about yourself, Christian?
Oh, sedentary, I would say, in comparison. Have you bought a house at Christmas before? That seems like the worst possible thing to me.
It was quite stressful. We made the stress worse by heading off to see Natalie, my wife's dad, for a month, almost straight afterwards as well. So we moved in and then left. So we came back to an absolute horror show in the house. So yeah, the last few weeks have been very exciting and interesting and not stressful at all in any way.
Obviously we're going to be talking about making use of technology, particularly useful stuff. Was there any portion of the house buying process where you found a solution on the internet?
I think one of the biggest things I found actually was using like the automated and online mortgage advisors, which for many people I think is a handy option, at least if you're struggling with meeting brokers and getting to the bank and having face-to-face meetings, and they might not always have the information that you need or what you want to hear, but it definitely gives you a good scope on what might be available in your sort of area of mortgages. I know there's quite a few in the UK market. There's definitely a few in the US market as well. And you don't have to leave your home or go to the bank or what have you, so you can do it on your lunch break and whatnot. So that was definitely quite handy.
So is that a web service, or is that someone that you book to come to your home?
No, that was a web service, all online.
Right.
I'm trying to think, one off the top of my head was Habito, and it's like an automated chatbot basically. So you go through a series of questions, you provide it your details, information, earnings, etc., and then at the end it links you up with one of their dedicated mortgage advisors, and they go through the information with you, and you can log into it any time of day, complete the questionnaire, and then someone will get back to you. So it's quite handy in that sense. Yeah, all online.
Definitely. Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so it's the new year. It's 2019. Have you got used to writing the date yet? I probably got used to it about a day ago.
Only a day?
Oh, yeah, I'm afraid so. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm still going for 2018.
This isn't directly related to what we're going to be talking about, but I've just seen an advert for razors, and I was a little perturbed by and confused mostly by the Gillette ads campaign recently. Because I'm basically, I don't want to say I've taken it personally, but I basically lost confidence in Gillette, because if they're going to mess up their advertising so badly, are they going to then mess up their manufacturing? I just want my things to do what I pay them for, not to sort of tell me off or even tell me I'm doing the right thing. As far as I'm concerned, the right thing is to have a good shave. So I'm kind of I'm in a business for another razor company, basically.
Whoa. I mean, as a man who doesn't shave very often, I just can't help you on that one, I'm afraid. I'm actually doing the opposite. Maybe it's like a protest that I wasn't aware that I was having, but I've decided I'm going to try and grow mine out as much as I can. So
A hairy
maybe
protest.
it's like a subconscious protest that being told what to do by the people that provide a razor. But I do agree with you. It's unnecessary to step over that line, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It's it just changes things a little bit, and there's a whole, I'm giving you money because this is what you're good at. I'm not giving you money because I want you to tell me actually I should be doing something else. I don't know. It all feels uncomfortable and wrong, and as you say, there's a line that seems to be overstepped. But anyway, let's move on from that. I'm sure Gillette won't be the last. However, it is the beginning of the year, and things can be a little bit challenging for the first few weeks of the year. I mean, I certainly had a tough January. It wasn't particularly dry. I don't really do that kind of thing, to be honest with you. But I mean, I'm not a binge drinker or anything. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to accidentally paint this portrait of this kind
yourself,
of
Christian.
alcoholic podcaster. And he says, sipping a can of ginger beer.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's important at this time of year to move towards a kind of a positive outlook, because you're going into a new year, and you've got 12 months of scariness ahead of you. 12 months of what you're going to do. Is it all going to be the same? What can you achieve? And I think it's important to make it as positive as possible, which is why I stumbled upon an article at MakeUseOf.com by Mihir Patkar called 5 Brain Hacking Positivity Apps to Manage Depression and Change Your Mood. Now, I will be honest, because it's probably the best way to be. I do tend to get the occasional black mood at this time of year, and I do find that vitamins and St. John's wort, or as I call it, because I'm British, St. John's wort, joke for all you Brits out there, helps a lot. Is there anything that stands out to you, Gavin, from this?
From the article, definitely, I think the one project I downloaded and had a good flick through, and I do think the idea of the therapeutic photography is quite good, because it's getting you out there back into the world, especially at a time if you do feel a bit dark and down and the weather can be a bit overcast. I mean, especially our friends in the States, they've had the crazy polar vortex, haven't they? So if you can get out and try and make at least the best of what's going on around you and try and see some of the beauty in your local environment, I do think things like that really, really help.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that's really interesting. There is another suggestion in the article, which is Hilacrity, which is a daily questionnaire to reduce stress. For me personally, doing a questionnaire is the last thing that's going to reduce stress. I hate, they pop up all the time. I'm in the middle of filling out a form, quite a long application form for a kind of writing competition, not the right word, but we'll call it competition. And it's endless question after question after question, and some of them are very similar. The answers you give are similar to the answers you've already given, so you're then thinking, oh, do I need to reshape that question for that question? And questionnaires are just stressful, full stop. However, there is another one in there that I do think is quite an interesting one, which is different spin-off, which is a UPER, which is an Android and iOS bots app, which is a bot to track moods and rewire your brain. So the mood tracking thing, I think that's really interesting. I think that could prove to be really, really useful.
Yeah, that looks interesting, doesn't it? I think this whole thing with I've read something else recently about trying to rewire your brain, and I'm not sure how you necessarily go about doing that, but I guess if you've got a process within the app that can help you get from A to B, like it says, short-term exercises, guided meditations for situations where you're feeling bogged down and want an instant boost. And I think at times that is what people need, isn't it? Just to get over the hump that's in front of you at that immediate time. If you've got something to turn to on your phone, it's always in your pocket. Just pull it out, and you can try and get through that bit. So yeah, that does sound very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So there's 5 in total. The article also takes a look at Pause by Pausable, which is another mobile app for Android and iOS, and Moodrise, which is a mood-changing app. It presents you with mood-changing videos, which I'm actually going to try out on my son, which will hopefully help him control his mood. You never know. Might work on some temper tantrums there. We can but experiment with that. So yeah, as ever on the Really Useful podcast, if you have a read below the bit that you're listening to, you'll find the show notes and you'll find links to these articles and anything else relevant that we're talking about in this week's show. I tell you what, I'm just throwing this in because I've just remembered that I've done these 2 reviews on makeuseof.com and they're related to giveaways, so it's probably a good idea to mention them right now. So the first one I've done was recently published. It was published first, was for a Linux laptop from Librem, who produce very secure hardware. So if you're concerned about privacy and security online, this laptop comes with kill switches for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and for the webcam and the microphone, and its encryption is by default on the hard drive as well, and there's various other security aspects to that. So it's an expensive laptop. It's about $1,300, I think. So it's certainly worth taking the time to enter that competition. And the other one that if I can just find it, because I seem to have misplaced it, which is a little bit embarrassing, is a handheld DIY retro gaming console called the Game Shell from Clockwork Pi. Both of those reviews, it's a great little thing, and you can put your own games, your own favorite retro games on it, install emulators if that's your thing, but it's DIY. You get to build it not from scratch, obviously, because it's like motherboards and stuff, but you put in all the components together and you can customize it. It's a very cool little thing. Again, that's a giveaway. It's on makeuseof.com that I'm responsible for, so I thought it was a good idea to share that while I get my brain in order and at last find the other link for the next item. Thank you very much. So listen, this time of year, as we've already discussed, you're kind of looking to the future, aren't you? And one of the things you might do is sort out your LinkedIn profile. Are you on LinkedIn, Gavin?
I am on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Are we connected on LinkedIn? I don't know.
I'm not sure, I don't know. I'm connected to a few other make use of people. I'm connected to a lot of random people.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and marketers as well. Lots of marketers,
recruiters, and I noticed as soon as I started writing in earnest for Make Use Of, there were lots of people who own factories in China contacting me and asking if I wanted to review their, very odd products.
Yes.
So I've tried to avoid adding any of those because there's a few a day. So
yeah.
But it's one way to look extremely popular, I guess, if you do add them all.
Yeah, you get a massive circle that way, don't you?
Yeah.
I've been linked on a while, and I've got a strange combination of people from my different phases of my careers. So I've got school friends, I've got fellow Make Use Of colleagues, I've got people that I worked with in the NHS, people connected to the BBC and British television. It's a strange mix, to be honest with you. Although I've never worked for the BBC, I should add at this stage, but I know people who know people. So it's probably happened that way. So anyway, so yeah, LinkedIn is a thing. If you are looking for a new career, then LinkedIn's a good place to start with getting your CV online. And just your resume, what you've been doing, making contacts with various companies or recruiters or recruitment agencies or whatever. But once you've done that, it's kind of useful to know who's been checking you out. in the professional sense. Now, one of the ways of doing that, and there are others, but one of the ways of doing that, and probably the best way, is with a paid account. Have you tried LinkedIn Premium?
Yeah, I did the 1 month trial actually. Yeah. Have you given it a go?
I did the 1 month trial as well. How did it work out for you?
Well, I think I enjoyed the insight it gave to me, but I think I would have found it more profitable overall if I'd have been sort of actively looking for work at the time. So I think it popped up in an offer in your inbox, doesn't it? And that's where you get the deal from for the 1 month free trial. So it was there, so I took it on. The insights were interesting, and it was good to see the entire spectrum of who is looking, because you've had X amount of profile viewers within the last 90 days. But on the free basic account that most people have, you can only see, I think it's 4 or 5 people at a time, is it?
Right, yeah.
So I think if I had been looking for a job properly, being able to see the people, especially I found the people that have been looking at my account in my local area was quite interesting, because there were people sort of in media and tech and what have you throughout Cornwall that had been looking that I had no idea about from the free account. So that sort of insight was very useful.
The whole idea of there being media and tech people in Cornwall is I'm trying to stifle a laugh. Obviously, clearly there are. I'm just thinking of people who fix combine harvesters, though. You know.
Yeah. Well, and pasties. Don't forget the pasties.
Pasty engineers. Yeah. Well, you know, LinkedIn. I think it's important to have a LinkedIn account. If you're looking for work, it's important to have a LinkedIn account. If you're not looking for work, but you know, in this day and age, there's a very good chance you are going to be looking for work within 5 years or so. Or even moving with your own company. I think it's important to have a LinkedIn account, whether it's active or not. I'm going to say, you, Gavin, have you ever felt the benefit of having a LinkedIn account? Has it benefited you? Have you gained employment?
I have gained direct employment through LinkedIn twice, actually.
Right.
And it wasn't even work that I solicited myself. It was people that had reached out and contacted me on the basis they'd read my work, and someone else had said that I might be interested in work, another LinkedIn member. So
That's the same for me.
Yeah, so I think in that I went for years, I've got to say, without it doing anything, and it was just, you know, there, and I had it there because I was doing courses and meeting people, and you know, like you said, it is a handy thing in that sense, because it does present quite a professional front if you present your account in that manner. And in that, obviously, it is different to the other sort of social media networks, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Like, I'd never advise anybody that wanted to contact me to go to my Facebook page, because it's not a professional thing. Not that I'm posting anything, you know, awful on there, but it's just not where I direct people. So in that, it is very useful.
Yeah, I've also had 2 opportunities via LinkedIn that came to me. I didn't contact them. One of them was Android Magazine, which was a Imagine Publishing publication, which one of our Make Use Of colleagues, Andy Betts, was editor of. It was actually him who contacted me. And Imagine eventually ended up being swallowed by Future Publishing, and I'm still writing with Future Publishing. I contribute
nice.
I contribute to a Linux format monthly now, so that's good. So yeah, it just shows you, LinkedIn is definitely worth having. And there's a article by Saikat Basu on makeuseof.com called "How to See Who Has Viewed Your LinkedIn Profile." It's definitely worth you taking the time to look at that if a new job, new career is something that you're looking for in 2019. It's like, do you know what? I was reading something yesterday or the day before on Twitter that said that next year, 1990 will be 30 years ago. When I think of 30 years ago, I'm thinking of 1970. And that's pretty much me. When someone says to me 30 years ago, I think 1970, I still think it's 2000. What's
Well,
going on?
I was only a spec back in those days, Christian. So I can't help you out, I'm
Yeah,
afraid,
well, I mean,
mate.
yeah, I'm not that old, but I'm 43, so I was 25 in 2000. So,
Yeah.
so I remember the 70s very vaguely. I remember moving house in 1978/9 over Christmas.
There you go.
It's like you. So yeah, and so 30 years before, are we all perpetually 25? Do you think maybe that's what it is?
Oh well, I mean, you just want to live the heyday again and again and again, don't you? The
Well,
glory days.
I think my glory days was when I met Kerry, and got married. I was a bit older than 25, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything glorious about those days.
Not there listening to you. You don't, I mean, you can say that something different if you want.
No, there's no one here.
Yeah.
They're all in bed. Listen, you've been a busy guy, haven't you? Because you've been investigating the importance of two-factor authentication, which the big problem with two-factor authentication, which maybe it's worth us looking at in more detail one day, is its name. Because it
Yeah.
sounds unnecessarily complicated, doesn't it?
I think so. Yeah, and I think people put off turning it on because they think it's going to be a faff.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do one extra thing every time you sign into an account. Um, but in reality, the security that it does offer you is so worth the the slight delay into logging into an account that it's incredible that people that don't want to go for it. So two-factor authentication works by locking your account with two separate factors. It's there in the name. The factor is something you know, such as a password, something you have, such as your phone, or something you are, such as a fingerprint. Most of the time, you're going to use a password along with your phone. And the confusion comes in, whereas if you lock your account with two of the same factors, it's called two-step authentication. So that would be your password and a security question like your mother's maiden name. And at this point, we know that additional security questions like your mother's maiden name are fairly dangerous these days because of the amount of breaches there are and how easy it is to track down information on people and what people post on their social media. This is very revealing. And setting up 2FA on a huge amount or a huge range of your accounts is just insanely easy, especially people like Google who are really pushing it. You just get a prompt on your phone. You don't have to type in a code. It just pops up. And if it's you, you say yes. And if it's not, you say no, and it locks your account. It's that simple. So it's very worth investigating.
Do you think there's any time where, or any occasions where it's maybe too much, where it's not actually required that much?
Well, that's an interesting question, Christian. I think it maybe depends on the account you're trying to protect. I mean, I have it set up on all of my most important accounts. I've got it on my Amazon account, I've got it on my Facebook account, on my Twitter. For me, it's anything that's gonna give away the keys to the kingdom, as it were. You want to have it on your email account because if someone gets into there, then they can run riot and start resetting all sorts of things. I'm just trying to think of accounts where it wouldn't be that worthwhile, really. I mean, I don't have it on my BBC Sounds account because that's just for listening to the radio, and you have to sign into it these days. But that's sort of unnecessary. But I would say anything where you've got banking details that are constantly there and potentially constantly available, your Netflix, etc., you should have two-factor authentication turned on.
Fair point. Yeah, fair enough. I find it very useful. I use it a lot. I've found recently that because of the vast number of Amazon services that I use, it proves really useful. The only things I have to have my phone with me in order to get the text message from Amazon, because that's the way I've got it set up. It is. I just wish it was a little bit more user friendly from the naming point of view. If they'd just come up with a slightly better name for it, I think more people will be using it, because I think it is vital. In fact, I know it is vital for people to use. That authentication, it's got to become more and more widely used if we're going to ever get away from the risk of online fraud and having our accounts hacked.
Yeah, absolutely. When you see how many data breaches there are, and of course, I mean, data breaches aren't always from people losing their accounts, but then it's when those data breaches happen and people's accounts suddenly start getting hacked, and people are losing banking credentials and all sorts of stuff, and it's only then people start wishing that they'd taken those few moments to actually do it. It only takes a few seconds for each account, so
yeah. So this is really linked to an article that Gavin has produced called "How to Secure Your Accounts with 2FA, Gmail, Outlook, and More," in which he looks at Gmail, Outlook, which is Microsoft's web-based Outlook email service, the sort of successor of Hotmail, and also looks at Apple and iCloud and Facebook and even Twitter and Instagram. I didn't know there's two-factor on Twitter.
No, it's quite well, not recent, but they've tweaked it and changed it a few times. But yeah, it's handy. And like Instagram as well. They only introduced that, I think it was last year. 2018. So that's actually quite a recent addition to Instagram. And as more and more people are sort of switching from Facebook to Instagram, and you do tend to use it on your phone, it is worth having, because you can the Authenticator app. You can get Authenticator apps as well that they just read the code straight over to the app, so you don't even have to worry about copying and pasting a code over. Your phone just automatically does it. So you've given yourself an extra layer of security, and it automatically takes care of it for you. So
that's an app such as Google's Authenticator, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Google Authenticator. The other really good one is Authy. That's well worth a check out, because that one, unlike Google's version, actually syncs across your devices. So if you've got a phone and a tablet, whatever, you can sync between your both things, so you don't have to constantly reach out for one device or the other. So that's well worth it.
Excellent. So that really brings us to the end of our really useful podcast. It's the first of 2019. It's a new run of episodes of the really useful podcast. We'll be here for a few months, and then we'll be taking a break. Big thank you to Gavin Philips for joining me, and big thank you to you, our listeners, for sticking with us over the break. And we've got loads more great stuff to talk about over the coming weeks. Making technology work for you, simplifying everything. So, it's not all about CPU frame rates and megahertz and gigabytes and all that sort of stuff. We're making the technology personal. And I should ask, if you don't need any help with that, but you need someone that does, then pass the really useful podcast onto your elderly relative, your partner, your child, anyone who you think can benefit from the information that we're giving out. Share it and let us know what you think, and let us know if you have any suggestions for us. either via Twitter or via makeuseof.com, where you should find this podcast and all those in the future. Gavin, thank you for joining me.
No problem, Christian. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And until next time, it's goodbye from us.